we are going to study movement in unicellular organisms. Like we see on the screen, amoeba, paramecium, they are unicellular organisms. And most especially, we are going to study the organelles of movement. How does this organism move? The mechanism. Amoeba is a unicellular organism. How does it move when it sights its food? And the same thing to paramecium. How does it move in order to feed and to run away from predator or any danger in the surroundings? That is what we are to look today. I want us to be patient enough in order to follow the train. Thank you very much. Let's move to the next slide. The introduction. Movement in unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms perform the same life processes as multicellular organisms, yes. The fact that they are unicellular organisms doesn't mean they cannot perform the life processes like what we call this acronym Mr. Ninja Duck or Mr. Ninja Cat today, used in Nigeria. And then they have these organelles in them that make them perform all these functions, though they are unicellular. And that is why we say unicellular organisms sometimes move towards or away from things in the environment. Just like we studied in the movement, the response to stimuli in the environment. How organisms respond to their stimuli in the environment. They either move towards, which is positive movement, or when they move away, which is negative movement. They move towards anything that is beneficial to them, and they move away from anything that is not beneficial to them. This include, and those things that are beneficial to them is food, light, and part of it which is not beneficial to them is the predators. Unicellular organisms can move in two distinct ways. We have movement and locomotion. And that is where I'm going to ask my question. Is there any distinct difference between movement and locomotion? We know movement is part of the characteristics of living things. What about locomotion? What do you understand by the term locomotion and movement? Okay, let's look at it. Movement. Movement enables an organism to change its form or shape. It is achieved using pseudopods. Protists such as amoeba use pseudopods to obtain nutrients or to get rid of waste. Yes, what we have to here is movement. Movement enables an organism to change its form or shape. Just let's look at ourselves as an example. If you are to move the part of your body, if you move the part of your body, it means you change your form or your shape. That is what we call the movement. When an organism changes its form or shape. Okay, when you're sleeping and then you move your hand, that is movement. You move your leg. That is movement. You've changed your form or you've changed your shape from the normal shape. Okay, let's take for instance again, when you're trying to take a picture and then the photographer tells you, please adjust your head. You have to move your head from one place to another, which will make you change your form or your shape. And let's look at locomotion on the other end. Locomotion enables an organism to change its position in the environment. Look at it. It changes its position in the environment. It means when you move from one place to another, when the whole of the body is moving, it is locomotion. While when a part of the body is moving, it is movement. So we need to understand that. We are always saying movement is when the organism moves. Yes, we can call it that, but the real name given to you, or let's say the biological term is locomotion. When an organism changes its position in the environment, when you move the whole of your body, you move from one place to another, that is locomotion. Unicellular organisms achieve locomotion using cilia or flagella. They use some organelles to achieve this locomotion, like the cilia and the flagella. Let's take for instance the cilia and flagella. How do they use it? They use it by creating current in the surrounding environment. Cilia and flagella can move the cell in one direction or another. Unicellular organisms generally live in watery fluid, so they depend on cilia, flagella, and pseudopod for survival. Just as we know unicellular organism dwells in water, when we mention cilia, we should know the organism that uses cilia for their locomotion or the movement, and we should know the organism that uses flagella for their locomotion as well as pseudopods. Now we're going to look at these organisms and their mechanisms on how they use it. Let's move to the next slide, please. Organelles of movement. We already know the organelles of movement is flagella and cilia. Though this time around we do not want to mention for amoeba. We know amoeba also uses its pseudopods, which is the first feet. But there is a mechanism that enables the pseudopods to be suitable for the movement or locomotion in amoeba, which we're going to talk about later. But now let's look at locomotion in unicellular organisms like Paramecium, Chlamydomonas, and Euglena. Paramecium, Chlamydomonas, Euglena, they make use of flagella and cilia. And then we're going to talk, just like Paramecium make use of the cilia, Chlamydomonas make use of flagella, Euglena make use of the flagella. Now let's look at the flagella. How can we describe the flagella? The flagella is a long whip-like projection on the cell surface. They are usually one or two on a cell used for movement or locomotion. E.g., Euglena, Chlamydomonas, spermatozoa, trypanosome, the make use of flagella. And these are the pictures of what we're talking about here. It is the long whip-like projection that looks like a rope, and that organism is called the flagella. And that organism we are saying is the Euglena. Another organism here, we can see the flagella label, and that is the Chlamydomonas. This is the microscopic plant that belongs to the phylum Thallophyta, the algae. And then we have another organism. You can see the long whip-like projection that looks like a rope at the extreme end, and that is trypanosoma. The trypanosome. We have the last picture which I have here, which is the spermatozoa, the sperm cell. We can see the flagella is also labeled here. Flagella aids the movement of the sperm within the female reproductive tract until it gets to the fallopian tube. Okay, let's move on. The next slide, please. Cilia are short L-like structure that project out of the cell surface. They are usually numerous and packed closely together. They move in a coordinated way to bring about movement. You see, they are very small. When we say they move in a coordinated way, cilia are small, and then they pack themselves together. They start moving, just like when have we seen millipede moves before? You can see the tiny legs, how it moves. Just like that, the cilia also moves. So in the paramecium, for example, the organism that makes use of the cilia is the paramecium. The action of the cilia moves the whole organism. At the same time, it also directs the current of water containing food in the paramecium's gullet. And that is how the paramecium fits and how the paramecium also moves. Note, cilia is also found in the human windpipe. And this is the paramecium. You see it? It is, and this is another picture of the paramecium. This small, or let's say the short hair-like on the sides of this paramecium. Let me show it. Should be able to show it here, please. Yes, all these, they are the cilia. These we are seeing here. It's the cilia on the paramecium, and the other one that allows the food to pass in through here and then get here, the cytosol, then form food vacuole, then it digests in the body of the organism. Then the undigested food material move out through the anapore, and that is it. Okay, let's move to the next slide, please. Mechanism in movement in amoeba. Yes, like I mentioned earlier, amoeba doesn't there is not a special organelle used in amoeba for the movement, but we already know that amoeba uses its pseudopodia in the movement. And how is this pseudopodia used? What favors the movement of the movement of pseudopodia or amoeba from one place to another? It is through a term which we call cytoplasmic streaming, and it is also known as cyclosis. Now, what is cytoplasmic streaming? It is also called protoplasmic streaming as well as cyclosis. This is where a flow, it is where there is a flow inside the cytoplasm, that is the cytoplasm of the amoeba. The cytoplasm we see here. So yes, yeah, these are the cytoplasm of the amoeba. Yes, there is a flow inside. And what type of flow is it? Now listen, it is typically observed in large plants and animal cells. Yeah, flow means that the cytoplasm is moving inside a cell. It is not stationary. It means the cytoplasm is moving upward, let's say forward and backward. Okay, cyclosis occurs in protozoa, properly known as amoeboid movement. This is another name we can call cyclosis. We can also see this in white blood cell, the amoeboid movement. Amoeboid movement is aided by a mechanism called cytoplasmic streaming, the cyclosis, or the cytoplasmic. Yes, what is cytoplasmic streaming? Cytoplasmic streaming involves the principle of gel-sol conversion of of cytoplasm. That is the main thing we need to concentrate here. That is the main thing we need to recollect. The gel cell. Gel cell. It means there is a conversion between the gel cell of the cytoplasm, where we usually call it the plasma gel and the plasma cell. Plasma gel, it means the gel is inside the plasma lemma, or let's say the plasma membrane, and the cell within the plasma membrane too. So there is a conversion, which means when the gel moves, when the cell moves forward, the gel will move what? Backward. And then the reverse case. When the gel moves forward, the cell will move backward. And this is what aids the elongation of this pseudopodia we are seeing here. This one we are seeing here, it means let's say the gel moves forward, which makes this let me put arrow here, which makes the cell so what? Withdraw. And when the cell withdraw, the movement is aided. Then the reverse is the case again. When the cell is moving forward, it means this will also extend like this, and this will what? We also retract in. So movement can be aided, just like when we are swimming. You know, when you swim, you flap your first hand, the second hand go backward, the next hand go forward, and the next one go backward, just like your right hand forward, your left backward, your right forward, your left backward, and movement will be aided. Then we have the forward movement. The same thing is applied to amoeba, which we call the cyclosis or cytoplasmic streaming. Now let's see what we have on the screen with what I've explained. Movement in amoeba preaches is accompanied by a continuous streaming of the cytoplasm in the forward direction. In the forward direction, the central plasma cell, just like I put it here, the plasma cell, the central plasma cell is converted to plasma gel. Can you see? It will be converted to plasma gel, which remain attached to the inner wall of the plasma membrane because they are found in the plasma membrane. That is where they are. But at the point the gel is converted, I told you this gel will move backward. Then this cell will move what? Forward, just like our end stretch during swimming to solve, thereby creating pseudopodium in front and the driving force from behind. That is how amoeba also move, just like any other unicellular organism like paramecium, euglena, sperm cell, which they make use of the cilia and the flagella. So this is what we want to study under the mechanism, movement in unicellular organisms. This is amoeba. Can we see the diagram? The plasma gel and the plasma cell. That is how we have the convection. Look at the plasma gel. The plasma gel will move what? When the plasma cell move forward, then the pseudopodia extend. Then for it to continue movement so that this pseudopodia also extend forward, then the plasma cell needs to come backward. So the plasma cell needs to come backward so that the plasma gel goes what? Forward. Then the plasma gel needs to come backward again so that the plasma cell goes forward. So that is how the mechanism is. It is a conversion of the gel and cell in the cytoplasm. That is what we call cytoplasmic streaming or cyclosis. Very simple. Thank you very much for listening. Growth movement as regulated by organisms. This is all about movement in plants, which we explained earlier on when we discussed cell reaction to its environment. And then you can have the assessment for you to note that you understand the lecture. Then you can discuss the role of zinc, permit me, the role of enzymes in positive phototropic movement. How oxime helps in order to favor positive phototropic movement. And today's quote is by Samuel Butler. All progress is based upon a universal innate desire of every organism to live beyond its means. Once again, I remain your humble and loyal biology teacher, Kolawale A.O. Peradventure you have any question, kindly make use of the comment box. Thank you once again.